All right, so to save on time, and this is a lesson for substitution, we're only going to do the ones that you would solve by substitution. So any of these that I would have chosen B for or other for, we're just going to leave out. So for substitution, there's two different ways you can do substitution. You can solve both equations for y and set them equal to each other, or you can solve one equation for x or y and substitute it into the other equation. So those are the only two we're going to do. So we are going to skip number 1 and go straight to fitness frenzy number 2. And we're going to start off just by writing the system of equations, and then we'll decide which one of those we'll do, either A or C. All right, so Fitness Frenzy charges $10 per month and a $59 startup fee. So we're going to say that's y equals $10 per month. We're going to say 10x plus the $59 startup fee. All right, Lean Machine Gym charges $15 a month and has a one-time membership fee of $34. So what should that be?
Y equals 15x plus 34.
Good job. Okay, and so our two choices are either solve both equations for y and set them equal to each other, or solve one equation for x or y. What would you think would be smarter on this one? Yeah, they're already solved for y. So let's just go ahead and do choice A, set them equal to each other, and solve. Right, and so this is a fairly simple equation to solve. We would get our x's together, and then subtract that 34. Okay, so I get that x is 5. Do you think that's the answer to the question that says how many months would they be the same, or how much would be paid? I mean, if it's $5 to join a gym for a long time, then I would definitely say that. But yeah, it's 5 months. I would definitely join a gym for $5. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. All right, so 5 months, they had the same amount paid. To figure out the amount that you pay, you can take that 5 and put it in for either one. It honestly doesn't matter. I'm just going to go ahead and do the first one. Yeah, it is $109. So it's 50 plus 59. That's not too bad for 5 months. But we would get the same y whichever one of those we plugged it into. All right, we're going to skip number 3 because number 3 would be best to do using the calculator. We are going to go to number 4, but I'm going to change number 4 a little bit. This is just going to be a y and not a y squared. All right, so do you think this would be best to solve for both for y, or to solve one for x or y and plug into the other one? Yeah, because we already have one solved for y. So let's just do it that way. So what we'll do is we'll take this 1 minus 3x, and we're going to substitute it into the other equation for y. And now we're going to solve for x. What's going to happen to those ones if we try to get them together? They're going to be 0. So the ones basically subtract away. All right. And then what if I don't want that 4 in the denominator? What can I do with it? Good. All right. One of the x's is 0. There's 2 x's, actually. So some of you are getting ready to go to college and take a math class. And one of the things they're going to expect you to know how to do is factor. And we haven't spent a ton of time on it this year. We talked about it with quadratics and we kind of moved away. But this one we're gonna practice factoring again as we do these lessons. But this one we're gonna factor out a common factor. What would the common factor be? X. And then when we factor an x out of each, it should leave you with x minus 12. Right? And then we'll set each of those equal to 0. So x is 0, but x is also 12. All right, and then to find the y that goes with each of those, I'm just going to plug the x's in here. We could put the x here. It doesn't matter. It's just a little bit easier to do in the other one. So when I put in 0, I get 1. And when I put in 12, I get negative 35. All right. So 2 answers. And that happens sometimes. No big deal. All right, so we are going to do number 5. So a community garden is being built in a neighborhood. The length, let's call the length x, of the garden is to be 6 feet longer than its width, which we'll call y. So the length is 6 feet longer than the width. So x equals y plus 6. If the area of the garden will be 112 feet, what do I do with length and width to get area? Yes. What will be the length in feet of the garden? All right, so what do you guys think? Solve both for y or just solve one of them for x or y? Yeah, we already have one of them solved for x, so let's just do that. So we're going to take what x equals and we're going to put it in for x. All right, this is another one. In the end, we are going to practice factoring again. All right, so if we are going to solve this by factoring, I want to get everything on one side and 0 on the other side. Okay, and then since this is a trinomial, we're not going to do the factoring out a common factor thing. We're going to do the 2 parentheses thing, where what we put here and here need to give us y squared. It's obviously y and y. And then if this is a negative, I have to do a positive and a negative. And this took me a second to figure it out. So I don't have all the factors of 112 memorized like I do some of the other smaller numbers. But I want 2 numbers that multiply to give me 112 and subtract to give me 6. And just a hint, if they multiply and subtract to get an even number, it's going to be 2 even numbers. Smaller.
13.
13 isn't even, crazy. It's going to be 2 even numbers. 14 is one of them.
And 6.
Nope. Yes. Which one needs to be positive?
14.
Yes. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to get 2 answers for y, negative 14 and 8. So if y is the width, which one of these there's no way is the answer? Negative 14. So we can't have a negative with. So that means, what's the answer? The answer to the question is the length. So our width is 8. Our length is going to be 8 plus 6, or 14. Okay, we are not going to do 6 because it's going to be another method. All right, we are going to do 7. Okay, so do we want to solve both of these for y, or do we want to solve one of them for either x or y?
No, solve both for X.
I know. Well,
So can you just
if
plug
we
in
solve
plus two
this,
for that last one?
we could. That's pretty smart. I didn't even think about that. All right, so let's do choice. What choice was that? Choice C. So I didn't even think to do it this way, but I can substitute what y squared is for the y squared. So I get x minus 7 times x minus 2 equals negative 22. All right, so I'm going to distribute that negative 7. And combine my like terms here. Subtract 14.
Six. Oh.
And we get that x is 6. Smart. All right, and then to figure out what y is, I can take that 6 and I can put it to either of those x's. Probably the first one is going to be the easier one to do. So what can I square and get 4? There's 2 answers. Positive and negative 2. So to get, we do the positive and negative square root. So we get 6 and 2, and we get 6 and negative 2. That saved a lot of time, actually, doing it that way.
Let's go.
We're doing really well on time. What time are we going out there? 50. We're going out there at 50. All right, let's look at, we are going to do number 8. Before we decide, we're going to go ahead and write our 2 equations. So Paige spent $91 at a bookstore purchasing 7 books. Paperback books, let's call paperback books X, cost $11, and hardback books, so we're going to call Y, cost $8. How many of each kind did she buy? So we're going to write one equation that represents how many books she bought. So if I took the number of paperback and I added the number of hardcover, what should that equal? Not yet. That's the money problem. There's
7.
7 books. Good.
Maybe 7 items instead of the amount spent. Wouldn't you do X times Y to get the amount?
No. It would be how? What would it be, Ryder?
It would be 11Y. 11X plus 7Y, or 18. Sorry.
So how much each book type costs times that number of books, so X, and then Y, and then that should equal the money spent. All right, so are we going to solve both of these for Y and set them equal to each other, or just solve one of them for X or Y?
Solve both of them for Y. The bigger one for Y.
We're just going to solve one of them for X or Y, only because if I solved one of this one for X or Y, I get yucky fractions. So I'm going to solve this one for X or Y. It doesn't matter which. I've done it both ways. Do you guys want to solve for X or do you want to solve for Y? Okay. So what would Y equal?
7 minus X.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that, put it here. All right, 18 times 7 is 126. All right, then I'll combine my x's together. That's negative 7x. I'll subtract the 126. All right, I'm going to get that x is 5. So what does that mean? Y is 2, but what is 5? 5 paperback books. And then I know that y is 7 minus 5. And 2 hardback books. All right, we are not doing 9 or 10 because we've already done ones like those on, I guess, Friday. When we saw those, you would do by graphing. But we are going to do 11. All right, so if I chose to do substitution, they are already solved for y. So that this would be a, and we'll just set them equal to each other. So if they both equal y, then they equal each other. And then I'll get everything on one side. And then I'm going to factor this. So 3 terms means you do the 2 sets of parentheses. To get x squared is x and x. And I know my signs are different because I get a negative 15. And then we want to multiply to get 15 and subtract to get 2. 3 and 5. And then because I want a positive 2, it's going to be a positive 5 and negative 3. But when I solve that, it's just the opposite of what I said originally. Okay, and then we can have negatives here. This is not associated to a number or a length or anything. So then to find the y's that go with them, I'm just going to plug them in. All right, so one of my solutions is negative 5, negative 13. And then my other solution is 3, 19. All right. And then number 12, we are going to do. I'm not 100% on how you pronounce that name. Say Ashmita. Went to a restaurant and spent 3 times as much on her entree as she did on her dessert. Okay. So looking at choices A, B, and C, which one represents that?
C.
Yes. So C and D. So her entree is 3 times the dessert. Okay. Then after the 6% sales tax, her total was $18.23. So just looking at C and D, which one of those? That's C. Yeah, good. But let's go ahead and finish this. So which system? Okay, we did that. Let's find the cost of her dessert. So we're going to do this one by taking E, what E equals, and putting it in. All right, so it would be 1.06 times 40. Oh. I do not like decimals. I would rather work with fractions than decimals. Okay. So when I divided 18.23 by 4.24, I got basically $4.30. So it was 4.2995. So not too bad for a dessert.
Not bad.
It's okay.
Yeah, like a McFlurry's like $7. And
I know.
Their ice cream machine.
Well, yeah, their ice cream machine's never working. All right.
McFlurry's so skinny.
Is it?